All right, happy Wednesday. We have a couple of things to talk about today. Do you want to talk about the Tiger Woods thing first?
No, let's do this because it's connected.
Okay.
There you go.
So, my mom sends us memes, quite a large percentage of memes often, but sometimes they're super useful. Often they're just funny. But this one I think is great. She sent it earlier this month. The degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth he can accept about himself without running away. Or, the degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth she can accept about herself without running away. Or it and itself, if you are a gender non-binary, or they and their selves. Yes. So whatever pronoun you want to use is, I guess, what we're saying. So, I mean, it feels sort of self-evident, but what do you want to say about that? You shouldn't have put it away because you know we're going to need it again.
I will very professionally find it again.
Yes. I think one of the things that is so challenging about addiction is the addict isn't just lying to everyone around her or him. The addict is also lying to her or himself. And so it's very hard to grow because you are living in a falsehood.
Yeah. I think just before I had my wake-up moment, someone in my AA group said to me, Maz, you're still lying to yourself. You need a...
Oh, so this was like 3 weeks after you were in rehab.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought you meant before February 1st.
No, when I was in rehab, you have to accept the truth of what's the matter with you in order to move on. And I'm not talking about just an addiction. People get, and I think it's just the way some people cope with it. You just go into denial about quite a few things. I mean, I was in denial about how much I was drinking. Some people get in denial when they get given a serious diagnosis for any kind of disease.
I think it's easy to... You're right. It's easy to be in denial about most things, actually. This notion of, well, I don't spend that much time on social media. Or, well, I don't spend that much money. I found a recipe. I think I told you last month I made Branston pickle for Maz, which is this English...
Very good.
Vinegar vegetable spread. It is very good. It's very good. It's kind of like mincemeat, but not quite so sweet. Anyway, it was from a website called Good Cheap Eats, I think. And so I signed up for the newsletter. And one of the things that this woman who produces this site does every month is she sends out a sort of a budget that you can create for yourself around grocery shopping. And, so you obviously, in her world, you make a list before you go to the grocery store and you check all the various stores to see what's on sale where. And you kind of game the system in the best sense of the word, which my mom used to do. I mean, I grew up watching my mom go through the weekly thing that came out in the paper, and we would go to this store for that stuff and this store for that stuff because, quite frankly, I didn't grow up in a very wealthy household, so we had to. But you maybe know that grocery shopping is one of the absolute delights of my life. It's probably in my top 2 or 3 favorite things to do. I don't even understand people who say to me, oh, I hate going to the grocery store. I mean, it's fine if you do. But let me promise you, what I do not do is all of that. Going to the grocery store is a pleasure for me. It's entertainment. It's like going to the library. So I spend way more on groceries than we would need to. Maz would like to go to a big box store and buy generic stuff, and I'm not saying this critically, and spend probably half of what we spend. And I just cannot fathom that. The degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth she can accept about herself without running away. I will absolutely freely say,
You have accepted that truth.
spend the money. I'm happy. That's where
Now,
I want my money
we do
to go.
spend, you even said it yourself, our grocery bills could be slightly small, but, we buy good stuff. It's healthy.
Yes.
And I say it to my students all the time. It's actually quite difficult to eat healthy because the healthy stuff's expensive. My go-to example for this is if you ever, hamburger. Look at hamburger.
I would
You can
prefer
buy
not to.
hamburger quite cheaply if it's 83% lean, which means it's got 17% fat in it. That's cheap meat. The stuff that's good for you and probably will prevent you from having a heart attack if you don't eat it every day is the 93% lean stuff, which is about $8 compared to $2. Most people actually buy the 83% lean stuff because they can't afford the other stuff.
Well, I don't think we can say most people,
Yeah,
but
well,
clearly
if you're
people
on a
are
budget,
buying.
what
Yes,
would you buy?
Yes.
Good meat is expensive. Good vegetables are expensive.
Not beans. Beans are always affordable.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Anyway, that's a minor analogy, but I think you just have to be honest about who you are, good and bad.
For me, everything changed for me when I realised that there was something wrong with me and I needed help. So that was the degree in which I grew after that was
Monumental.
because I had to accept the fact that I wasn't broken. There was something wrong with me and I needed help.
Well, you were broken. You weren't broken beyond repair.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a really excellent thing to think about. How honest are you willing to get with yourself about yourself?
This could actually go back to the whole thing about you culling all those people on Facebook. You finally said, I am wasting my time on Facebook, and you did something about it.
I will say I have gotten 2 messages from people, both of whom I like, who have said, "Oh, I guess I didn't make the cut, huh?" And I do feel bad. I do.
You can always refriend someone.
I could. But then what was the point? Then really all I did was waste a weekend unfriending people. And again, I told you the other day, I'm not saying I will never grow my list ever again. But I appreciated that they wrote to me, and I'm sorry that they feel bad, and I now feel a little bad about it. But, wow, I just have done so many other things this week besides scrolling through Facebook. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It is about that.
That's a very the reason we brought all this up, it's very. I'm trying to find. You're right. I should never have put it away. Mm-hmm. It applies to everything. It applies to addiction. It applies to simple things like uncomplicating your life. Thank you. Mm-hmm. It applies to. If you're going to ask for advice, take it.
Or at least be willing to hear
or
it.
Listen
Yeah.
to it.
I was telling someone the other day, we were talking about a 360 evaluation. I don't know if you've ever had one of those. They're brutal. So you fill out a self-evaluation and then you invite 8 to 12 people who work for you, people who you report to, colleagues in your workplace or in your work world, and people who know you. And they fill out the same evaluation. And so it's like this holistic view of you. And it's all anonymous. And it is rough because people say what they think because there's no way to trace back. So you have to be willing, if you go into one of those evaluations, you have to be willing to get hit pretty hard. And of course, the larger your personality, the more present and the more public you are, the more you're likely to get hit. Why don't you ask politicians how often they get hit? We know a side of any politician. There's other sides to them that we will never see. And so we all make assumptions around it.
Well, high school teachers, they get it from all angles.
Yeah.
Disgruntled students, weirdly disgruntled parents. Think about high school coaches.
Yeah. Yes, I grew up in a household
Yeah.
with a high school coach. That was rough too. So you have to be willing to assess yourself. You have to be willing to take in the information. And then you have to decide what's useful and what you're going to do with what you now know. And sometimes what you decide to do is nothing.
This is actually quite good advice. Oh, this is a good loop, this, lover. We're on fire today. Look at this. This is also a good
You
loop.
might be. I
This
don't
is
think I am.
well, you don't know where I'm going. This is going to be good.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Have another sip of tea.
Okay, keep going.
I'm padding the job now. If you don't cull your friends on Facebook, you're liable to have more criticism. So you're going to have to be aware if you're going to take any advice that people. I mean, some people ask for advice on Facebook. The question is, do they listen to it?
Yeah, I told you I got rid of all of the super conservatives on my page. I don't need them in my life. They're free to think what they want. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done really caring what they think.
You know, and also accept the truth about yourself without running away. That's the hardest part of that.
Yes, it is. Yes. You know, it's not unlike last week when I woke up the day after we had that dinner and realized what role I had played in that. I could have run away from it, and I chose not to. I chose to face it head on and address it because it was a problem, and I don't want to be that person. I do not want to be that person going forward. So you have to be willing to look at the good and the bad. And I will say this, as Midwestern Scandinavian descended type people, like we are in the Dakotas and Minnesota region,
Oh no.
be willing to look at the good and be good with good.
Which is different than Minnesota nice.
Yeah, but my point is we qualify everything. Oh, I'm sort of proud of this. Yeah, it was kind of okay. Yeah, she looked pretty nice.
Yeah.
Come on.
That was pretty good.
I'm done with that too. If I've done something well, then I want to be able to acknowledge that I've done it well, because I sure as heck acknowledge when I don't. And I want to be able to do that with you and for you and with us. And what's the point of living in milquetoast land all the time? Don't get too big for your britches, and also don't dig too far into the secrets. Nope, I say outgrow your damn pants and dig deep, because otherwise all you're doing is living at this kind of weird surface level. That's not interesting. That's not where growth happens. Celebrate your wins and learn from your failures and face them head on. All right. So we were, is there anything else you want to say about this?
No, that's pretty much. We could always come back to this. There's lots of layers on this. It's like an onion.
It's just like that. So Tiger Woods this morning,
Oh, there you go.
they came up on Minnesota Public Radio, and she said, if you haven't heard about Tiger Woods, and Matt said, who in the world hasn't heard about Tiger Woods? And I said, I haven't heard the latest news. I didn't know he was in a car accident yesterday. But the first thing that I said when Maz told me was, oh, I suppose he was drinking. And you said,
It's what I said was that's half the problem. If you did something in your past that you're moving away from, and something happens to you, a lot of people are just going to assume, the easy, almost cowardly thing to say is, oh, of course they were probably drunk again. Well, he wasn't. He's been in hospital. He's been operations. There isn't one.
well, we haven't heard that he was.
But because of what immediately surfaced was the dash cam of him doing the sobriety test in 2017, when they actually proved he wasn't drunk. He was bombed off his head on prescription painkillers because he just had back surgery, and he didn't remember getting in his car, but he wasn't drunk.
Yeah. Yes. So I think the lesson is,
Don't assume.
don't make assumptions that because someone struggled with something in the past, if something goes wrong, they immediately had to have fallen back into it. You and I could have trouble going forward, not necessarily because you've gone back to drinking. I mean, it could happen, and it likely won't happen, but that does not mean there won't be any challenges or issues. So just be careful, Dana Del Val,
No.
of making assumptions. Or
We're all guilty
just,
of that, don't you?
deciding it's true, which I guess is just another way of saying making assumptions. All right, it's 8:45.
Oh, we better go.
Enjoy your day. We'll
Have a
see you
fantastic
tomorrow
day.
with
Oh,
David
I'm looking
Whitesock.
forward to this.
Talk
Looking
to you
forward.
then. Bye.
See you tomorrow.